Today, me and my friend Jim have something very special for you. It's actually very unique and the first attempt for my channel. It's something I've never done before, but I've wanted to do something like this for quite some time. Tonight, for something in between 30 to 60 minutes, we're going to witness a Star Wars The Old Republic discussion between me and Jim, who of course I will introduce to those of you who don't know him in a minute or two. What is the topic for today? You already know because of the title, and I'm glad that we have a lot of people already joining live for the recording. If you miss parts of this live show, don't worry, it will be presented as a normal standalone video upload in probably hours or a day after the live recording. Today's topic, hard mode operations, boss encounters. We're going to count down from 5 to 1 the top 5 toughest, most challenging and most interesting all combined in one. The bosses in the hard mode operations available in Star Wars The Old Republic, our favorite game. Why am I doing this in such a format, live show? Because I think it will be fun for both you the viewers and me and Jim the hosts today. The other reason is because I want to prove to me, to you, and to BioWare, just in case someone is actually checking out this video, that we still love operations, even though we haven't seen a new one in 2 years next month. We still love the operations and endgame group content in this game, and we want to talk about it, and we want to bring the spark back. We want to, relight up the fire. I'm saying good evening because it's evening for me and him to Jim, my friend and officer from the guild Solstice where we play together. Jim.
Hello. Nice to meet you and nice to be here, Vulkk. I'm very flattered.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for accepting my invitation. I've decided to invite you because I don't want to be a monologue, and I know that this is going to be a very long video, much longer than a normal top 5 or top 10 or top something video you might encounter on YouTube. But I think you guys will enjoy this format. So, Jim, except being my officer in Solstice and a part of my raiding team for, I think, over 3 years, do tell about yourself. What's your history? Who are you? And how much of experience do you have with Star Wars The Old Republic?
Well, I'm 38 years old. I live in Holland. I've been playing longer with you than that. I've been playing with you since 2012. We've done a lot of 16-man, yes. So I remember the day I recruited you, so... Yes,
I thought it's 13. Oh, okay, 4 years now then, almost.
It's 4 years now. Well, it was the end of 2012, so I can see why you would think it was very cold and dark outside. I do remember that.
Yeah, back at the level 50 days, right?
Yes, back when, everything was a lot harder than it is now in the game. But
tell us what's your favorite class and how many classes you've played through those 5-ish years. You're a founder.
Yes, I am a founder. I've played since 2011, December 20. I've played all hero classes. That includes the Sage, the Commando, the Scoundrel, the Operative, the Mercenary, and the Sork.
Anything you haven't played?
Actually, the only class that I've never really mastered was the Vanguard or the Power Attack. I just couldn't.
Oh,
yes, I just couldn't.
I'm going to torment you with that class so very much in the future.
I really tried. I just couldn't get the hang of it. My current favorite class is the Scoundrel Healer. I recently switched, actually, with your permission, to...
yeah, it has been your favorite class before as well.
Yes. I thought I could make it work with the Sage again, but well, I think the love between the two of us is over.
Well, it lasted pretty much, what, half a year while you played the Sage?
Yes.
That's long enough. Okay, let me tell our viewers, hopefully subscribers, hey guys, if you haven't subscribed or liked this video yet, maybe now it's a good time to do it, even though we are just beginning. I really hope that you're going to enjoy what we're going to talk about tonight. Why have I chosen hard mode operations, not story mode and not nightmare or not everything all together? Why operations and not flashpoints? Why I'm not including Revan? I'll tell you in a moment. Yeah, number 1 is not Revan, don't worry. It would be a boring list if we had Revan available here. Why is it hard mode? Because that's challenging enough for many people to give it a try at least, if not defeat it. Why not story mode? Because there is very little thinking, if anything. in the story mode operations these days. And both me and Jim have constructed our top 5 lists thinking about level 65 encounters. We are not comparing the bosses from 2, 3, 5 years ago. We're comparing the bosses as they are now. Broken or not so broken, challenging, tuned, overtuned, nerfed, and anything like that. And we're not talking about Nightmare because my audience would probably not be as entertained if we speak about the Nightmare, because not many people do Nightmare operations anymore in the game. And speaking about some specific mechanics and why we rate this boss or that boss higher than the other one in Nightmare mode, it would be very hard to explain those mechanics and defend our lists and reasonings if you, as a viewer, have never experienced the Nightmare. Whereas hard mode, everybody has at least played, seen, or attempted the hard mode operations. Why Revan is not going to be in this list? Because it's by far the most challenging fight, even now at level 65, after BioWare nerfed this encounter. They're going to nerf it again, I believe, or they already did, Jim? With the
Yes.
timings in the last phase?
Yeah, they have, I believe. Well, there was
It's
nothing in
already
the patch
nerfed
notes.
again.
Wait, I
Okay.
couldn't find anything in the official patch notes.
Me
And
neither,
information
but
that
someone
I-
told me. Yeah, someone told me it's supposed to be in 4.7. Anyway, Revan has been nerfed from 60 to 65, but it's still by far the most toughest boss fight ever, and it would be a stupid, boring list if we include Revan, because he will take the number 1 slot. And that's why I've decided to exclude this boss encounter. We're not allowing flashpoints and bonus bosses because those are situational. And I mean, come on, flashpoints. We have so many flashpoints with so many boss encounters. If I tell you the boss of, the second boss of Directive 7, would you even remember who this is? What's the mechanic? And pretty much everybody skips most of the mechanics and never cares about those. Whereas in Operations 65, you're pretty much not allowed to skip like 80 or 85, 90% of the mechanics because BioWare overtuned those mechanics that could have been skipped. And with that, I would like to show you the lists. We have Vulkk's list and Jim's list. And we're going to start revealing number 5 for Jim and then number 5 for Vulkk. So,
Are you sure this is the correct list, or is this the list that I sent you earlier this week?
oh, really? You want to talk about that? Okay. If you guys follow me on social networks, Twitter and Facebook, you might have seen a screenshot, a teasing screenshot with Jim's original top 5 list. What you're about to see today is the list that I forced him to do. Because the number 1 boss encounter he chose originally for his first list was a little bit frustrating, Jim, right?
But it is the hardest boss in game.
Tell us, how are you doing with that number 1 boss encounter, and who was it in your original list?
The original list was, the number 1 was named Vulkk, when he was frustrated or close to hitting enrage. I've seen it only once, maybe twice, but in 4 years, but still, it's still one tough cookie to crack.
Yeah, I think I'm still proud with myself not really giving into to temptation and rage quitting or raging during live shows, and I'm actually good at keeping my mood relatively calm during operations, even though sometimes I'm frustrated. I try not to show it too much, and maybe once or twice, because as we already established, Jim and me have 4-ish years long history, and there might have been that 1 or 2 random slips that unfortunately he remembered. So, I've already revealed your number 5 position, Jim. Operator 9, that's the 3rd boss from TFB. Tell us just a couple of words describing the boss and why is this one here?
The Operator 9 is, in my opinion, one of the hardest bosses on hard mode. Because it's one of the first bosses where teamwork really came into play in an operation for Star Wars The Old Republic. And for instance, you are together on a color. There are how many colors? There are 4 colors. There's blue, orange, purple, and yellow. And you and a teammate are going to coordinate who's getting what. So, for instance, one stands in the middle, the other one stands at a console that he has to click for the duration of the core, which is one of the things that you have to get down. But the colors itself, you have to strategically place them as well, because you can't just have 2 DPS on purple, for instance, it takes good thinking and good tactics to get through that boss, which is the hardest part. That's basically why I picked that boss, if that makes any
Well,
sense.
nicely, well described and well defended. Unfortunately, I don't have many points to start teasing you here. I'll just reveal my number 5 because, quite honestly, I get confused already with which one is my number 5. My number 5 in the list, as the easiest of the top 5 toughest bosses, is the final boss in the Dread Palace operation. It's called the Dread Council, where you have to fight all of the remaining masters plus Kefes, of course. It's not really Kefes, it's a big beast, but it's not because of Kefes' presence. I've chosen that one because I remember we struggled quite a bit. I remember also when Dread Fortress and Dread Palace were released, we were all overgeared, so defeating the hard mode, despite that bug that was available in the first 1 or 2 weeks after the release of the operations, defeating the Dread Council still requires a lot of tactics from everybody. People need to mix, go left, go right, do different things during the different phases of the fights. And I think it's a complex fight that deserves number 5.
I'm surprised that you have it on number 5 and not higher up.
Really? You think it should be tougher? Okay. Well, I'm
think so, but
surprised you have Operator 9 at number 5. If you
And
want to
why is
start
that?
arguing, because we didn't have issues defeating it at 65. Yeah, granted, from 8 people, probably 7 of us have farmed that boss about 50 or 100 times in hard mode and nightmare before that. But it's
That
still
is
a
true.
tough boss, so yeah, okay. I'm gonna go first on number 4, and let's see what you have. Ooh, I have number 4, the Ravager's third boss, Torque. Torque is a mad, crazy Wookiee that never stops attempting to destroy whatever it or he or she wants to touch. Torque was a true nightmare boss to defeat. Torque doesn't have a nightmare mode, but the original version of this fight in a very small enclosed space with very little room to move around was a absolutely nightmare for melee DPS. And yes, I play
Absolutely.
different classes, but most of the time I do raid with my melee Sentinel DPS, Vulkk. And Torque, before the change to the fire animation, was absolutely a disaster for a melee DPS to play. We just need to, it's actually, it doesn't matter if we close our eyes and just hope for a fire not to hit us because of the smoke effect and everything else. As a
I
matter of
agree.
fact, we wiped a lot. We were playing together as well, of course,
Yes.
Jim. And we wiped a lot on that boss. But after we defeated it once or twice, it became a lot easier. And somehow I adopted and taught myself how to deal with the damn fire animations. So when BioWare changed the animations of the fire from the floor to those much simpler and cooler looking, actually, fires that we see now, I felt it harder at that point. What do you think of Torque, Jim?
At the start, it was hell for a healer because of the fire. It was completely unpredictable. There was no indication of when it would come. Unlike now, when you
that's true. Yeah, you couldn't
Yes,
tell
but-
where the fire spawns.
yes, exactly. Nowadays you have the indicator, much like where it will spawn, so you can get out in time. But back then it was just almost impossible to get it down. I
Right.
remember vibing on it for nights in a row, getting frustrated.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
actually, yeah, that Torque definitely actually should have belonged on my list as well. But yeah,
Oh, we've just received a comment from Trig. Torque killed my guild. We got sick of wiping on it. Yeah, I don't think you're the only person, man. Probably many
No.
kills disbinded on that boss, and probably many other boss encounters. Actually, Torque is by far not the most annoying or the most buggy fight that we've ever seen in the game. So I'm revealing Jim's number 4, and we have Stormcaller and Firebrand. Really? Is it
Yes.
because I asked you to start tanking this fight?
No, actually, tanking is a lot easier than healing it, especially when you're
Really?
on Firebrand. Yes, especially when you're on Firebrand. Firebrand is the easier of the two. The Stormcaller you have to deal with double destruction, and you have to make sure that the DPS is stacked up together well. Otherwise, the tank takes it back. Other than that, the tank on Stormcaller has to take down the spears, the electricity spears. I forgot what it's called. But also the DPS check is very tight, especially at level 65. And the coordination between the two groups and how you're going to take it down will make or break this entire fight. I remember us trying it with with 2-on-2, with 2 DPS on Firebrand and 2 DPS on Stormcaller. Just trying to DPS the two of them down at the same time. It didn't work out.
Wait,
So we
wait,
just
we
had
are
to.
talking about hard mode, remember? We had that issue in Nightmare.
Ah, yeah. Of course.
Yeah, so that's not part of the issue with the DPS. It was the group positioning, probably the fact that the shields still spawn in random positions.
Well, it's well, even at hard mode, I still have to think. I still think that the Stormcaller tank is one of the hardest things to do as a tank check.
And it
Because
does
of
a
the
ton of damage, right?
it
Or
does
at
a
least
ton of
that's what I've
damage.
always been noticing. I've never tanked that fight. Or no, I have, but at level 50 with the shadow, so it doesn't really count. That's
you
the
should,
toughest boss encounter that I've tanked in the game. I stopped
You
tanking
should. You'll be
this
surprised
boss.
how much fun it is to tank the old operations at level 65.
Well, you know, I'm playing Shadow Tank now for the Dark vs. Light event, but I'm tanking flashpoints and it's not really the same. I think tanking flashpoints and encounters that are shorter than a boss fight operation, it's just more fun. You have more things to do. Yeah, the lower level flashpoints are boringly, stupidly easy because they were designed for low level characters, despite the fact that they allow level 60 something characters now. Okay, let's step up to number 3. I think it's your time to go first now. Jim's number 3 of top 5 list is Draxus from
Dread Fortress.
Thank you. Now tell us about the boss. Why is it the third one?
The many phases. There's like eight waves or something, and each wave you have to do something else, and it gets incredibly confusing, especially at the start. Who goes where and what does what, and then you have the spoiler that the healers only have to do something, and you have the guys that knock you back. What are they called? Not the Temple Guardians. I know those, and those hit like trucks as well.
Yeah. And do you remember the bug? Now, of course, that bug has been cleared a while ago. It's not available at level 65, but there was a bug where the Guardians would put that reticle on the floor in the wrong positioning, and you can never tell if it's wrong or not if you don't look at the mob. The only way to know where the mob is about to do the frontal way away is to look at where the mob is facing, because the reticle on the floor was totally bugged. You remember that, or no, you were maybe away from the game at that point?
No, I was. I'm a healer mostly, and so I don't see those things. But
that's one of the very rare moments when I was forcing myself to zoom in very closely so I can very clearly see where the mob is facing. Usually it's facing the tank, but in those older days, it was not exactly the same.
No, it wasn't exactly the same indeed. But yeah, again, the focus on the focus of an operation was deepened even further compared to Operator 9. And Draxus showed that good teamwork means a lot more than having high DPS and low awareness.
I'm going to reveal my number 3. We'll have more chances to speak about Draxus because my number 3 position is also Draxus from the Dread Fortress. Now, my reason for putting it here is because, again, the team play. It requires a very nice team play and organization before you start the fight. If you have too much of an outgeared team, because for hard mode you can definitely be overgeared for this fight, but if you don't, and especially if you have new people who haven't done the hard mode before, it's a real challenge to remember how many waves are there. Now, I've made a very detailed guide video from the 55 days about the Nightmare fight, and even now I don't remember. I think it was 9 waves. Do you remember, Jim? How many waves we've got?
I thought it were 8.
We'll see who's right later on, maybe. Draxus is really a complex fight where the most typical boss fight that I think we're supposed to see in the game from the very beginning. I remember in the years before the launch of Star Wars: The Old Republic, the developers were telling us that we are not going to constantly fight those gigantic monsters of which we can only see their feet, or just like in the case of the Thorn boss, the ass of the boss all the time. If you're not a tank, of course. If you're a tank, I think that's probably the only boss encounter where tank have the privilege of facing the boss in the face. Everybody else is constantly staring at the ass of the what was the name? The Eyeless?
The Eyeless? Oh my god.
I haven't done that boss in a while. I've finished farming the event very long time ago, and I've probably not returned to it since the last year, or maybe longer.
You were right, by the way. The Draxus or Dread Fortress. Well, Draxus has 9 waves, by the way. You're right. I just
Okay.
looked it up real quick. And the last phase is the 2 Guardians, 2 Dispatchers, and 1 Corruptor. Then you have
Yeah, I do remember
Draxus
the
at 10.
fifth wave being the most challenging one, but of course
Yes.
my memory is most fresh from the nightmare encounter because I've
Yeah.
struggled a lot more with nightmare. However, the fifth wave is usually when some specific things are happening. Now, of course, I cannot go into too much details because I myself don't remember everything. I haven't done Drax's hard mode in I don't know what a month, 2 months. You've done it more recently. But the wave 5 is where you have many mobs. You have pretty much important mobs spawning on all corners of the room. And you also have the boss present and available. And it's kind of a DPS check back there in the beginning of wave 5. You have to clear all the mobs and you have to force the boss to jump back up before you
Yes.
move into the next wave. Well, of course, the wave doesn't wait. So if you're too slow, obviously the next wave just spawns on top of the previous one and it's a disaster. Right.
It is.
Let's see. It's my turn. My second position is, Brontes from the Dread Fortress. Brontes is the final boss in the Dread Fortress operation. We do have one boss already from the same ops, and it's probably good to mention that Dread Fortress was released together with Dread Palace as kind of a story arc on Oricon, this little daily area planet.
Yes.
It
was supposed to. It was supposed to end the storyline that was started in the Nova.
Yeah, it was started with Kefas.
Yeah, well, I think it started way before in the storyline of the Agent, where you wake up the Dreadmasters from the hibernation.
Right. Yeah. But that's a secret because probably not many people play the story on Belsavis these days, and probably many people have never done that. So do the Belsavis storyline, and you will see something fun that you will discover after you start doing operations after that. Right. So about Brontes, I think I lead in the list, Jim, because I already have Kefes in 2 boss encounters already, and we haven't reviewed your second position, but it's good to have a lead on you. You don't have Kefes appearing in any of your 3 positions so far. I have him twice. That's probably a subconscious decision why I put these bosses right here. So about Brontes, it's a long fight and quite challenging. Yes, of course, it's a huge step down from Nightmare, and probably some people would now start talking about how nerfed the boss fight is, but no, it's still challenging. I remember doing Brontes with a pug group. I was invited from the organized pug channel on the Red Eclipse server, and I had very terrible gear, like something left over from the previous level 60 Nightmare and hard mode cycle. It was this decent gear, but it was really outdated, and I wasn't up to par with my dummy parsing tests. And when I did Brontes, I've discovered that it was a struggle. It was in the first couple of weeks, no, maybe in the third or 4th week, maybe after the release of 4.0 and the scale up to 65. So me and pretty much everybody else in that pug, we were all fresh, and we did struggle a little bit. I believe we enraged. I do have a video on that, but maybe I'll link it later on. I turned it into a quick guide for level 65 because I've never made a guide for hard mode. I have one from 55 to the Nightmare version. Hard mode is much easier. We don't have those stressful balls or lightning balls in the final phase, the burn phase, but it's still a challenge, especially for the tanks and for pretty much every other class. There is something to do, something different in each one of the phases. And my God, Brontes has a lot of phases. It's a worthy final boss.
I have to say that the DPS check on Brontes, the droids that you have to kill while the clock is going, that one is quite tight. So you need to have high DPS, and especially the first 2.
Yeah, you're right. If people lack gear, this is definitely a very good DPS check.
Yes.
I don't remember with the guild ever doing this with DPS slack. Usually if we slack in the previous phases when we bring the totally unprepared ults. So let's talk about your number 2. Jim's number 2 is the Dread Council. Okay, that's why you were surprised mine is number 5. Tell me now, we've already talked about the Dread Council. Why do you have it in number 2? And why do you think it's so much harder than the other bosses you've already listed?
you're constantly going back and forth on all the phases. There's a DPS check, there is a tank check, there's a healer check, there's a good well, as a healer, there's a good awareness check. You have to know where everybody is at all times, including the cleanses that come up. You're very busy. You're never sitting still at any time. And in that final phase, when they all grow, at the end, that part is such a tough healing check, especially at the start. When we did this the first time, it was like wow, unlike anything I've ever seen before. And you're fighting all 6 of the Dread Council. Everyone that you've seen in the previous episodes, all of them come back now. Even Styrak and Brontes come back as Force Ghosts, which was very exciting. Because they took their the trademark mechanics.
You've just corrected me. I believe I said Kefes earlier when I was describing the monster. It's not Kefes, of course. Kefes is in the Brontes fight. So it's Styrak turned into a dragon monster, right?
Yes. Yeah, he's riding the big dragon, the Cal dragon. And Brontes comes out as a Force Ghost with the wings of the Architect on the back. You can see through her. It's just like she's really literally a ghost. And it's beautiful. It's beautiful animation.
She does look like a nice ghost with that white, pale animated effect.
Yeah, I would say she looks like Casper, but she's trying to kill me, so she's not as friendly. But
yeah, every time I think about the council fight, I cannot just forget the moment from the Nightmare transition phase where the DPS check was just absolutely insane, and we constantly struggle with what I would call server rubber banding. We were always forced to jump up during those tentacles, otherwise they would just electrify and kill us instantly. Or at least I was facing that problem. Probably someone with lower latency on the server would have lesser issues with this.
No, I remember people trying to respec in the middle of the fight. They just got like
that was a thing. Yeah, we were doing that. Otherwise, we had absolutely no chance to do the DPS check at level 55. Well, I've only killed the Nightmare once. And I've killed the hard mode council, I don't know, so many times already. We killed it on the 2nd week, I believe, right? Actually, on the 8th date after the release, yeah, because it was bugged the first 7 days after the release.
I was not, I was in Solstice, but I was not in your team at the time.
Oh yeah, you were in a different team, right? Well, we didn't even attempt this. I believe in the first week we cleared the first 4 bosses. Someone explained to us, probably Hald, our leader back then, that there is a tough bug that cannot be overdone or defeated, and we just decided not to bother with the final boss. That was level 55 in the fall of 2014, right?
Yeah. No. Oh, well, I don't know. I have to check. I don't know by heart.
I think it was 14. Okay. Now, before we reveal the number 1, let's mention 3 honorable boss fights that didn't make the list but could have. Start with yours. Do you have them?
Yes.
You don't just guess.
Number 3 is Styrak on hard mode. Very tight DPS check.
But final boss in Scum and Villainy.
Yeah. But that's all it is. So it didn't really count. It was not a mechanic that could wipe you. It was just DPS.
Actually, when I was working on my list, Styrak was there. I believe I put him originally on number 4. I'm not really sure anymore, but he was there. And then I thought, it's a good fight. It's a very long one. It's probably the longest fight in all the operations. Can you remember a fight that lasts longer? Originally, it was 15 or 16 minutes. I believe now 15. It's about 12 or so. Or maybe it's still 15. I don't really remember.
I think 15 is for the nightmare mode, or 17 was for the nightmare mode.
Probably. I'm mixing up with the nightmares. But Styrak was there because of the different mechanics. You have people thrown into nightmares. You had people running for different targets in a specific moment. You had people responsible for knocking back those illuminations, those ghosts closing into you when you're trying to take down the big, what was the name? Apparition. Okay, what are the other 2?
I thought you were going first.
No, tell me your 3, and then I'll tell you mine.
Okay, well, my first one was Styrak, and I explained why I didn't add him in the final list. The second one was Underlurker. But Underlurker...
You mean Underbugger? Or Buglurker?
Exactly, that's exactly
why
we
don't know an Underlurker in the game.
Exactly, and that's also the reason why I didn't add him at the last moment, because well, he's just he was mostly bugged throughout level 60, and he still is,
Yeah. I
and
still
that's
cannot decide for those level 60 days. Was the boss really bugged? Not the boss, but the cross more specifically. Was the cross really
no,
bugged, or were all the players that slacky, slow, and always doing something wrong? I just never could explain that to myself. Even today at 65,
no, I
sometimes
think
we see everybody, we've taken screenshots, we've looked at video recordings, we see everybody is on their positions, and yet the cross turns red. It happens like once in a blue moon, but we've still seen it a few
yeah,
times,
we
right?
still see it, and there's still huge threats on StarWars.com forums, or all the public forums with threats of people who can't get past Underlurker because they keep saying it's bug, even
Uh-huh.
though well, sometimes when you read the description of the bug, then it's just a mechanic that they're describing and that they just don't understand, which is fine.
Oh, right.
But yeah, but yeah, I didn't add him to the list at the last moment because I wasn't sure if the problem was going to be the 10,000 bugs that the thing has had, or the or whether it was a real actual mechanic that by people it would be very unclear and hard to explain to people.
Okay, what's your third option for the
My
bonus,
third option,
for the special boss that didn't make the list but should have?
that's the one you explained before. That was going to be Revan, but you specifically told me not to add that one. And I agree with you because it's even if even if you add Revan to it, it would wipe out the rest of the list simply
Yeah,
because
most
of
of
all
the
the
guys that follow my channel, they probably know that we've struggled with the Revan fight for a very long time.
yes,
Some of them that have been following my content for long enough, they probably remember that we actually never really attempted Revan at level 60
no,
because our guild team was about to disband and break up, and actually it did. But we did
yes,
some other things. We decided we are not ready for that Revan fight. We went there for like 2 or 3 hours once or twice, and we barely managed to reach the HK phase, and that was it. And then when we came back to Reform Solstice, thank you for helping me for that,
yeah, no problem.
we actually came stronger. We built a team. As a matter of fact, from the very first days, we've switched a few people in our team. But what amazes me is that most of the time, the new recruits that we've invited and taken into the team of our guild were people who haven't done all these bosses ages ago. Most of them were probably not interested in doing those, call them casual or something else. Or what's more likely to be the case, they just started the game later when these things were already either very outdated and nobody was doing them, or not really worth doing because again there is no worth reward from that. So we built a team. We wiped on Revan for I don't want to say 3 months, but I believe it was 2 months.
Long
We were
enough.
doing it kind of not hardcore. Obviously, if we do it hardcore, it would be
It would
embarrassing
have
to
been
do it
every
for
day.
two
Yeah,
months we
yeah,
did
it would
it
only
like 2 or 3 times per week, and we were persistent. I'm glad to say that some of the folks who have never defeated any of the bosses in Temple of Sacrifice defeated Revan before
yes,
defeating many other bosses in many other operations,
yes, true.
because we were pushing for that achievement. So
Yeah, and well, if everybody agreed that we should go for one and stick to it just until we get it down, and I was very happy with that attitude.
yeah, we did go through a few hard moments when people were giving up on the game, not because of
Yes.
Revan, obviously, because of boredom or because they've been disappointed with whatever BioWare announces. Now it's a trend, I believe, for many years now. Whatever BioWare announces, we have to just bring it down. We have to trash it, and we have to curse it. It doesn't matter what is it. I think a very good example is, I know I'm stretching the topic, but a very good example is the latest new cartel pack opening feature. I wanted to hate this innovation so very much because it's not gameplay, it's not what the game needs, or at least not what I need from the game. But it's so cool, so fun, so sleek. I enjoyed so much opening that hyper crate in the last video. And I think that everybody who was watching the live show really could catch my entertainment and enjoyment with this damn tool. I still hate
Oh yeah,
it, but I love it.
I kind of wish I just recently finished the Dark vs. Light event. I recently hit Legendary, but the first pack that I got at level
Wait,
25.
a
Yes.
moment for claps. I don't have a sound for claps, but we can imagine that it happens. Well,
I
I do have a sound, but I cannot just add it like right now. So, clap for Jim, please, chat.
Thank you. Well, I
You're the
recently
first
finished
in
it.
the guild, right?
No,
Or the
Draco
second?
was. Draco was the first
Yeah, but
one.
he had an issue with the bug. So
Yeah, he had an issue with the bug, but
technically you're the first.
oh wait,
Or,
yeah.
or he's still. Draco is
I
our
guess.
shadow tank. Most of you probably already know him. He joined us, a couple months ago. Okay,
Yeah.
let's go back to the topic because we're here to talk about the boss encounters. I have my
Okay.
list to help myself because I didn't write it down. I have my list from my Star Wars The Old Republic Operations loot table guide that I've published about a couple of weeks ago. And here are the 3 bosses that I'm choosing. I'm not going to number them from 3 to 1 because I don't really know how to best position them. But one boss that I kept in my list on the same spot where Torque is until the very last moments before I start this live show was G4B3, the Heavy Fabricator. You remember that one, Jim? Who is this?
The puzzle on
Yeah,
Karaga.
it's
Yeah.
actually the only true real puzzle in the very real meaning of the word boss encounter, true puzzle boss encounter in the game. It's not really hard. People with over DPS gear can really do that easy and quick. But if you don't have one person, at least one person who knows the damn mechanic on the puzzle upstairs, you're totally screwed over. And
Yeah, absolutely.
because me and you have done that boss so many times at level 50, but probably you as well, I personally haven't done it in more than 2 years after that because there was no need to.
No, there's
I
always
personally
someone
forgot the
who knew the
damn
puzzle.
combination and what we were supposed to do on the second floor with the puzzle. So we had one person in our team that knew how to do that because he was doing it constantly as soon as level 65 hit the servers. And when that person, that was our sentinel, he actually changed quite a few classes during his gameplay. He's an old member from Solstice. Unfortunately, he left the game due to real life issues and boredom a few months ago.
Wait, who was that?
Lemnier, I'm talking of Lemnier.
Of
He
course.
was
Oh, yeah, of course.
actually, I
Yeah.
believe, most of the time doing that as a sentinel or as a scoundrel.
As a scoundrel, and then the class, he just knew the puzzle.
Yeah. Another boss that I thought is worth mentioning is Calpheus. Calpheus is actually, for those of you who probably don't know, I forgot to mention, the Heavy Fabricator is the 4th or 5th boss.
The 4th boss.
Well, okay, so there are 5 bosses in KP, so it's the 4th one. Okay. The 4th boss in Karaga's Palace, the 2nd operation to be ever released in the game. It was actually released, a week or 2 weeks after the launch of SWTOR. The next boss that I have in mind is, Calpheus. Calpheus, I believe, is challenging in hard mode, not because there is a DPS check or a heal check, God forbid, I don't think there is a single heal check in the whole fight there, but because there are a few phases and people need to go different places, do different things. What's most special about Calpheus is the fact that you're used to doing that, probably, you're used to doing that story mode where you have a specific signs and you know where you're supposed to go and what where you're supposed to go and what you're supposed to do with the crystal, for example, that you're wearing, carrying, not wearing, and other things like that, just making the fight so much easier. Plus the timers, of course, to move to the future and the past when you're supposed to do that are much longer. But in hard mode, those signs are disappearing. And then in the second phase, you don't have mark on the crystal that you're supposed to blow up. Well, in the other instance, Calpheus is in a bubble channeling. And that's what makes hard mode really tough. You need voice chat or a very, very aware people that do look at the chat all the time and they know what to do. The mechanics of this boss encounter are simple and yet very interesting to learn. You have something to add?
That, but yes, but you're completely reliant on the other group to
that
make
too,
sure
yeah. If one person fucks up, the whole raid wipes immediately.
Exactly.
Yeah, because when we split into the future and into the past, we have 4+4, and you cannot help the other 4.
No, exactly. With the other mechanics or with the other bosses, you can still see if the other one is either doing it or doing it correctly. But with this boss, you can't see each other. You really have to rely on the voice communication or the chat to make sure it works. That makes it very hard.
Right.
A bit
And
scary.
the last boss for me was really a split. I wanted to include 4, but I've decided to ask myself and Jim to only include 3 special boss encounters that didn't make the list. So my third is something between Styrak and TFB. And I'm going to choose TFB because none of us have ever chosen TFB. TFB is the final boss encounter in the operation that bears the same name, Terror from Beyond. It's a special monster that is, during the second phase, have some very interesting mechanics. You again need to split the group. People need to go to different places. Healers have a very specific task. It's a unique mechanic where healers can heal only in this special instance in the second phase of the fight through 50, 60, 70 meters distance with no problems whatsoever. What's special about that boss is the mechanics involving all the platforms. You need to more or less remember which platform does what happens on that platform. Actually, they don't move, they don't disappear, but different things throughout the different three subphases happened on each one or most of these platforms. And I think it's a very cool mechanic to remember and learn and remember.
It absolutely is. It's too bad that the first phase before you get ported into the platform phase, that part is so tedious.
Boring as
could have
hell, right?
done, yeah, they could have done, with only 3 of them, that would be fine. But this is like 4, maybe 5, and they take long
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah,
But other than that,
I remember people thought when the ops was released that there was a bug because apparently just a slight bit of a movement to the left or to the right and you get in front of that tentacle that slams you and hits you when it's not supposed to. So people were in that first phase were really supposed to stay behind, like opposite to the tank's position.
yeah, I agree.
All right, because I know what we have on the first position and it's the same for both of us, it is time to reveal the winner, the hardest hard mode operations boss encounter in Star Wars The Old Republic level 65, Revan excluded. And I'm
So
going to
that's
give you
Vulkk.
the word
Oh,
first, Jim. Our first
so
choice for both you and me is Master and Blaster. Who is that
yes, it
and
is.
why is it there?
Master and Blaster is the 4th boss on the Ravagers operation, and on hard mode, it's incredibly hard. You have to be very aware of where the circles spawn. What else do you have to pay attention to?
How
You
many
have to make sure that
combinations were there? Do you remember?
7. 7.
7. Yeah, I was about to say 6,
There's 7
but
according
it
to
was an uneven number.
yeah, there's 7, and they spawn completely at random, and you have to make sure that you walk out. The tanks have to call out, and well, you don't rely on the tanks alone. You have to watch where you have to walk. And the hardest part is the bombs at the start. You don't know what to do with the bombs, or you don't know how tough it
Oh,
is.
you got to mention the bug with the bombs that we believe is present.
I'm not entirely convinced that it's a bug. You can
Me
get 2 or
neither.
3.
That's why I'm asking you to talk about it.
Well, you can get up to
The
2 or
stacking
3,
bombs.
and
4.
bombs, yeah.
You say
And
you've
they
seen
can.
4. I haven't.
I've seen 4 because that's what killed me a few times. That was usually when you get 3 of them and one person dies, and then you get that 4th one as well if you're unlucky.
Let me interrupt you for a moment. From the chat, Saboon X mentions that if we exclude Revan, we should probably exclude Master and Blaster. That is very true, but I wish to mention here that Master and Blaster is by far not as challenging and interesting mechanics-wise boss fight compared to Revan. Revan is longer, like what, almost twice longer? Revan was 9 minutes, if I remember correctly. Yeah, 9
I don't
plus.
remember.
Well,
Don't remember.
9.5. I don't remember the duration or the enrage timer. Master and Blaster is about 6-ish minute fight, depending on the classes and DPS and everything else. But why is Master and Blaster qualifying and Revan is not? Because it's an overtuned boss. It's not supposed to be that hard. There are a few things that we believe BioWare should have changed a long time ago, like the stacking bombs. Why would we have 3 bombs on the same person? It really doesn't make sense. I've never played those paper armor classes, but like for example, yesterday we were doing that exact same boss encounter, and Jim kept dying due to the randomness of the bomb placement. He kept receiving 3 bombs, and apparently it's nearly impossible to survive this unless you have like the god mode Sage Bobo.
You have either the God mode stage build or you have incredibly excellent healers.
Or yes, or be exactly topped up on 99.9% HP. That is with full 224 gear, right? You do have a full set.
I have a full set.
Yeah. For me, Master and Blaster is here because it's a short but very challenging fight. It doesn't have too many insanely tweaked mechanics, but it is an overtuned fight. And I will have to admit here, I believe from our team currently, 8 people, or 9 actually, it's just me and Jim who have defeated that boss. And I believe both of us have only defeated it once, right, Jim?
I did it with... Yeah, I've only defeated it once, yeah. After that,
and that's level 60, yeah. For me, it was level 60 as well. We didn't do it together, we did it in different groups, but we've only killed that boss encounter once at level 60, and we still haven't killed it at 65. We started doing it, 3 weeks ago, maybe?
Something like that.
We're currently struggling from our team. Nobody else has done the fight, and we, the two of us who have done it, have only done it once. So we kind of didn't exactly remember the precise moments and the precise mechanics and abilities in the final moments of this encounter. We actually started reaching it yesterday, and I'm really hoping for a kill on Sunday. It's not an achievement for me since you and me have done that already, but it will be an achievement for the guild because with this group and with our guild Solstice, I mean, Solstice exists for a very long time, but we're currently like, it's been 8, 9 months, 10 months now. We call it the new Solstice because it was a dead town. Those of you folks who are following my channel for long enough, you know that I moved to the Empire side after my favorite guild Solstice faded away. My team disbanded. Most of the people stopped playing and stopped logging in. So I've decided to look for a challenge elsewhere. And now we came back, and I'm really happy that we have a constant team. I'm really struggling to keep the guild small. If it was up to Jim, we'd probably have 5 teams now. Right, Jim?
No, well...
And he will be raiding on different characters in each one of the teams, right, Jim?
Well, it would be, some extra people, 16 man or something. That's what I ultimately would want.
Yeah,
I would like.
I do miss the Luckfest. I do miss the Luckfest. When I joined Solstice originally, if you say it's 2012, I'll believe you. It was a 16-man raiding progression guild. Back then, we did have progression.
But there was something to progress on. I mean, there was new content out in a regular cycle, which is not now. I wish it would. I mean, I do enjoy the. I did enjoy the Knights of the Fallen Empire. I was completely wowed by the last chapter, especially. But what I really would like to have is more group content like raids, and that would really be something that this game needs, I think.
And that is exactly where my small community, my audience, you guys watching the live or the recorded version can pitch in and help. Please, if you enjoyed this video, remember to like it, leave a comment when it's published. Even though we have a live chat right now, I've asked Jim to speak mostly on the topic and not get distracted too much with the chat, even though there were so many interesting lines that we would love to comment on. But if we do that, it would be a 2 hours live stream. And it's actually not supposed to be a normal live stream. We were both very excited and a little bit scared, me and Jim, of how this is going to go. And without really being able yet to watch the recorded version of what we are about to finish in a few minutes, I think we did a good job. A few more words on Master and Blaster because it is our number 1. Why is it number 1 for both you and me? Couldn't we have found another boss encounter? How about Draxus? It's easy for us, but I'm sure that for someone who's never done the hard modes, I think they would have a lot more challenge with Draxus. I don't think that's probably true. You never know, yeah. The damn Master and Blaster is overtuned. That's why it's more challenging than anything else. Did you ever have doubts about putting Master and Blaster in another position?
No.
Ugh.
Never.
Me neither, unfortunately. It's also with what?
Well, maybe it's also because we're doing that boss right now, and we're finding out how hard it is. So that's maybe why it's on
I think
top.
We're mostly finding out how random it is. I don't remember it that random at level 60, and yet I don't remember any changes happening to the boss encounter. It's just all the same, but probably tuned a little bit more tougher and harder to make our lives more miserable. Which is awesome.
Well, if RNGs is lift, then this is proof. Master and Blaster. So yeah.
A few quick words for those of you folks who have probably never faced Master and Blaster in hard mode. It's quite a step up, mostly in DPS and a quickness in reactions in hard mode compared to story mode. It begins with a very boring for some people and extremely challenging for others. I'm actually referring here to melee DPS and range DPS and healers as well. Because we have 3 safe spots in the first phase of the fight where everybody can sit very comfortably in their spot and do DPS. That's why we have our highest DPS characters and best, it's stupid to say best geared characters, we're all on 224 now. But the fact that we're bringing the best, I'm air quoting here, overpowered classes at the moment, which is the 2 Sentinels, I think it's a huge perk and a huge boost. Plus, in the second phase, when we have to start taking care of this, what was it, Ion Cutter?
The Ion Cutter, yeah, that's the...
Ion Cutter is 30 second-ish. It's actually 10-second duration, 30-ish second cooldown ability from the smaller droid, because we have 2 droids in that encounter. The smaller droid, which is the Master, the big one is the Blaster. So the Master does a very annoying yellow beam, similar to what I would call it similar to the Commando's healing beam, even though it's yellow.
But then a different color, yeah, and it does damage.
Well, you can make it probably much more similar if you use a yellow crystal, but that's really not important, I suppose.
No,
that Ion Cutter is a mechanic that involves pretty much every single player from that encounter, and they have to be aware where the person next to them is, why the person next to them is there, and how to move out. We have those annoying bombs that create a round circle beneath the players at random time on random players. So you can never know when you will get the bomb. And when you get the bomb, you're not allowed to go in the range of that same circle from another player, because when that happens, you both explode, you get knocked back, and most of the time it's a wipe. It's very hard to recover when someone dies. If someone drops down in the very first moments of the second phase or somewhere throughout the first phase, I think it's quite easy to recover. But if a wipe happens later in the fight, in the third phase, which is what I would call the burn phase, it's pretty impossible to recover.
That's pretty impossible, yeah.
And then again, during the second phase, there is a huge awareness check with those, what were the red lines called?
The Reign of Pain.
Reign of Pain, yeah. When that happens, we have several times, 2 preferably. If it's 3, I believe we'll hit an rage. So it's 2 sets of Reign of Pain where you have huge red reticles on the floor and you have to avoid them because you're taking damage standing on them, and you're taking even bigger damage when they forgive me, when they disappear. That's another huge awareness check, because during that moment we still may get bombs and we still may get killed. We may kill each other. On top of that, we also have those orange circles. The same circles, but in different pattern that appear from the first phase.
Well, we managed yesterday to only have 1 Reign of Pain. And
really?
So
yeah.
Yeah, we did.
Okay.
The DPS was higher.
We did it a few times with, after we switched to the 2 Sentinels.
Yes.
On the previous day, we couldn't do it with just 1.
No, we couldn't. But that's because
I'm fairly sure that with 2 Reign of Pains it's manageable, but with more than 2 it's definitely a wipe due to enrage. I don't even know if there is an enrage on that fight. I've never faced it.
I don't want to find out at this point. I just want to get it down.
Yeah, unfortunately my personal experience, and obviously Jim's personal experience, is not very rich with the fight in hard mode. After we've only done it once, we haven't experienced pretty much every possible situation and combination of events for this boss fight. But I think it's a definitely worthy winner for the number 1.
Yeah, absolutely, yes. If you exclude Revan, then yes, definitely is the hardest one.
Well, I think I hope we've done a good job to entertain you guys and entertain ourselves. We are actually breaking the 1 hour, or at least that's what I see on my OBS. It's probably shorter for the live stream because I usually start OBS a couple of minutes before I open up the live show. I would like to thank first Jim for being my co-host today, and I would like to thank everybody who... You're very welcome. And I would like to thank everybody who appeared live here, and thank you for being active in the chat. If you had something very special to say, but we've missed it here during the live show, feel free to post a comment. Do not forget that it's very important, if you enjoy this video, to throw it a like, maybe share it on Facebook or Twitter or whatever else you might have a social account. I'm an antisocial person, so I only have a Twitter and Facebook. Are you happy with the list, Jim? Do you think we screwed up on some spots?
No, I still think that
you don't have torque. No, why the hell you don't have a torque? Have you no shame? How can you put Stormcaller instead of torque? Damn you.
Oh, actually, I still don't understand why I couldn't have you on number 1 for the live show.
Okay, let me see if I can find that screenshot for those folks who haven't seen it before. Just a quick check. Do I have it? Well, it's very possible I don't actually have it. Yeah, I've probably deleted it already. Well, never mind. Just check back a couple of days ago if you're watching the live show, or maybe more days ago, from a screenshot with the short list 5 on my Facebook and Twitter. That was a fun joke. I almost thought about allowing Jim to go with that list officially, but it would have been, 60 minutes wasted time for people who actually were interested to learn who would be the number 1. Okay, Michael is asking why none of us picked Zorn and Todd. Yeah, Jim, what's wrong with us? Why didn't we choose Zorn and Todd, even in the special extra list?
Because I don't think that's that hard.
Well, it's only hard at first when you learn and master the spawn and despawn of the jumps of the bosses and that fearful debuff. That's actually the most annoying one, along with what the hell was this?
That's the link to the photo.
Oh, you found it. Thank you.
I found it, yes.
Okay. Let me show you then to the folks. Oh, you found the tweet. Nice.
Yes. Be excluded, Revan, Michael. Because then,
there is the tweet.
all the...
So Jim's original bosses were, just look at that, only final bosses. Damn you, Jim, you are too lazy. Kefis number 5, Brontes number 4, the Council number 3, Styrek number 2, and your very own channel owner and content creator Vulkk when he's frustrated. How many of you guys have ever seen me frustrated? Jim is just a damn troll. Right, I believe that's all from us. I don't want to keep you guys any longer. I really hope that you have enjoyed the presentation. If you have, please let us know, because we have plans for future ones like this. And you just have to let us know, did you like it? What did you like? What you didn't like? And what we could change. One of the suggestions would probably be the duration of this. It's not easy to sit through a 1 hour video, especially when there is something to look at, even though it's not really required, because I've vocalized every single thing that happened on the screen, except for the chat.
True. That is true.
Once again, Jim, thank you very much for spending your 1 hour with me and with us. For those of you who don't know, because I should have mentioned that in the beginning, Jim is Manfred. He is active in the chat at the moment, and he's very often active and present during my live shows, whether it's a guild live stream, Operation Raid, and he's just trolling instead of healing, or whether I'm doing something else solo. Jim is very often present, so don't forget to always say hi to him. I have very interesting plans for the near future. If you guys enjoy this format and this kind of live discussion / presentation / whatever, and we will expand the number of hosts. I'm thinking about including you, my viewers, my subscribers, and most of all, my Patreon supporters. I believe that would be my first choice. Closing up, thank you, Jim, for the 15th time for being present with us tonight.
I can never say thank you enough, huh?
Bye-bye, guys. I will see you next time.
See you. Bye.